Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is a little workshop on the fundamentals of health. And I've been studying health and nutrition and mindfulness for quite some time now and put together, I've condensed everything. So I've been a personal trainer, plant-based nutrition consultant, meditation coach. And this is what I feel is the essence of health, the true foundational key pieces of health and how we can simplify health and make it so that we can start to apply it immediately. So this is that workshop, and it is a workshop. So hopefully you have a pen, paper, ready to write some things down because we're actually going to start to implement a personal health plan for you today. All right, so this is it, the fundamentals of health. And we can say kind of a subcategory of this is gaining a sense of control over your body and mind to attain greater levels of health and well-being. And we'll see that we'll go through all this, but we'll see very quickly that the mind has a very powerful and key role in our health. So we need to recognize that. And so let's jump in. So the purpose here today, as stated already, is to simplify the understanding of the fundamentals of health so that we can begin to apply it. And the second part, begin to create that personal health plan for you in this little workshop. Because once we start to understand it, we're going to apply. So it's not theoretical. There is theory, I guess, but practical components for it for you as well. So to get on the same page, let us define health. What is health? And if you look up the origin of the word health, health comes from a German word that means whole. So health is wholeness. And we know that it's not purely physical wholeness because we have a whole physical body, but just because we have the body doesn't mean that we are healthy. There are other components, and we can say that there are emotional components. So, in order for us to feel whole, we have to address the mental, emotional, and physical states of being because we've all been in a place where we're doing the things for physical health, yet we feel some sort of emptiness, some sort of incompleteness within us. And for feeling incomplete, we could say we are not whole. So therefore, true health must be approached holistically, all these components of health. All right, and so to put this, we'll give a little visual for this of a framework of health that we can put into play so that we can just have to start to simplify the manner so that it is easy to see. So we'll have this little image represent every key component of health. And what are these key components? We'll say that connection, vision, inputs, and outputs. And this will all make sense. We'll dive into each of these. And let's start with connection. So perhaps the most important thing we need to have a connection with is ourself. If we don't have a connection with ourself, we are well, we're living under someone else's rules. So we need to have that connection with ourselves to recognize that deep satisfaction. And that's kind of what we're all searching for anyway. We want to make sure, we want to feel that we are living rightly. We want to feel that we are doing right by that deepest part of our inner self. We want to recognize the reality of that. So we need a connection with ourselves. We need a connection with others. We're human beings, we're social creatures. We need to have healthy connections with others. We need to have connection with nature because that is, well, that was here first. And if we only live, I'm in a climate controlled box right now. If we only live by, if we never are in touch with nature, we only live by that which is made of man. And yes, there are some beautiful things. We have a lot of conveniences, have this microphone, a pen, have this cell phone. There are conveniences, but if we never put our feet in the ground, if we never breathe the fresh air, we are really disconnecting ourselves from health. And then lastly, we need that connection with the divine. And I'm not here to define that for you or anyone else. That is a search we need to make for ourselves, but the recognition that there is something greater than us, that we come from some place or something is important. because without it, we kind of just wondering what is life about? So we need some form of connection to divinity, to something sacred, to something greater than ourselves. So let's go on to vision. And vision is not just what we see, but vision is almost say the contents of our mind, the filter of our mind, how we see the world, how we behave, how we show up. So we can say the vision contains our values, contains our belief system. It contains that vision of the future. What are we striving for? What is pulling us forward? Is there anything that's pulling us forward? And that's very important for health, because if we don't have a vision of a healthy future, then what kind of life are we living? And then vision of ourself, that self-image. Do we see ourselves as deserving health? Do we see ourselves as worth, are able to even put in the effort to attain health? So all these matter when it comes to our health as well, because we need to recognize, again, this is kind of the mental, the mind aspect of it. We need to see how our mind is affecting our day-to-day life, our day-to-day behaviors. And that's going to be based on our values, our beliefs, the image of our future, and how we see ourselves currently. And then let's go into the inputs and outputs. And this may be the most important part. It's all of them are important. How do you really say? Is your left hand or your right hand more important? We need both of them. And so the inputs and outputs, this is our starting point, because this is going to be the inputs of the body, how we fuel our body, the things we are actually consuming and putting in, the inputs of the mind, the non-tangible things that we are consuming. What are we reading? What are we listening to? How is this affecting our psyche? The outputs of the body, how we are using our body, moving, and the outputs of our mind. How are we thinking? What are we imagining? What are we thinking of others? Because this is going to have an impact on our health. And this is where we are going to start, because this lets us know where we are. And not only that, it helps us develop our awareness. We need to be aware of where we currently are in order to make the changes to where we want to be. So we could say that awareness is a starting point to change. Because again, in the most simple example of, let's say you have something bothering you on your hand, you don't know what it is, then you start to observe your hand, you see you have a splinter. Now you have the awareness of the root of the problem. Now you have the ability to remove that splinter to alleviate the pain. So this, in terms of health, if we want to make any changes, we need to know what it is that we need to change. So this is why we want to focus on those inputs and outputs, because that gives us a snapshot of what we are doing, how we are affecting our body and our mind, which is going to ultimately affect our health. And so another way we can say this is we need our unconscious behaviors to become conscious. So if we are just, in terms of eating, if we're just blindly eating bags of potato chips, we need to become conscious of that. And maybe we're conscious of it after the fact, but how often do we blindly eat? Or let's say we're just consuming negative information that is making us feel not the best. If we're reading things that are saying the world's coming to an end and we're just spend 40 minutes doing that, scrolling through something, and then it's like, oh, I feel terrible. Let's become conscious while we're doing it so we can eliminate those behaviors. So if awareness is a starting point, we also must become aware of what we're striving for. And so a semi-trick question, what are we striving for? You may say, well, health, we're striving for health. Yes, but beyond that, what we're really striving for is a feeling, an emotion, an internal experience. Everything that we strive for is with the expectation of an emotional payoff. Everything. If we want a new job, we expect to feel some type of way when we get that new job. If we want to live in a new place, we expect to feel some type of way when we move to that place. We want to feel like this is home, this is comforting. We want to feel something. All of life is about emotional payoffs. What we strive for is about emotional payoffs. So keep that in mind, because that's really valuable. We're about to jump into an exercise to really get into this. What does success feel like? Now, I'll invite you to just maybe close the eyes. That feels right. What does it feel like? That feeling like, ah, I did it. That feeling of, I'm doing it right. I'm making moves. I'm progressing. Just feel that within yourself. How does this feeling feel? How would you describe it and where do you feel it? Is it in your belly? Is it in your heart? Does it kind of radiate outside of your head? This matters to recognize this feeling because this is what we're after. That feeling of success, that feeling of, ah, I did it. So I'd even invite you to, if you want, jot something down of what that feels like, how you would describe it, what it does feel. And it might be an analogy. It might be, it feels like a good hug. It might be, feels like coming home after a long day. Just, but what does that feel like? And just take a moment, jot a thing or two down. And then, so from that, we're going to have that feeling in mind. And so, what is perfect health to you? So, something that matches that feeling. And there's no right or wrong answers. What does it feel like? But keep in mind that it matches that feeling. So, in other words, this definition of health, what gives you that feeling? If you were to have this feeling, or if you were to have this definition matched, it would give you this feeling. So, what is perfect health for you? Again, jot a little something down, contemplate that, because we want to have that at the forefront of your mind, because we don't want to just be blindly striving for health without defining it. And yes, we're going to get into more of the nitty-gritty, the actual details, but this is that abstract definition of health. It could be the ability to spend as much time with your kids, your grandkids, whatever age you are, and whatever type of offspring you have. Or maybe it's spend time with friends and you don't want to feel tired. Maybe it is having the energy to do all the things you want to do. Maybe it is the ability to think clearly. Maybe it is fueling your body, respecting your body. What is perfect health for you? And we're going to get into more details later on, but this is that overarching starting point with this. All right. So now we're going to get more into the nitty gritty with it because this is now that we have that kind of overarching idea of what health is for us. And again, abstract, detailed, it doesn't matter because we're going to get into more detail now. And so to do that, we're going to get into the inputs and outputs of the body and mind, and we're going to explain it a little more thoroughly now. And we are going to develop that awareness of where we are as we have that snapshot so then we can start to move forward. But in order to do this, so again, just in that framework, the inputs and outputs, inputs of the body, inputs of the mind, outputs of the body, outputs of the mind. All right, so to do this on your paper, just draw a big square. We're going to be writing in this. And then once you have that big square, we're going to divide that into 4 quadrants. And you'll see that we're going to break that into the inputs and the outputs, inputs on the left, outputs on the right, and then body and mind. So you see we'll have the inputs of the body on the top left, inputs of the mind on the bottom left, so far, and so on. Man, English sometimes. And then within that, we're going to divide that into 2. We're going to each of those 4 quadrants divide because we're going to make those positive and negative. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go into each individual quadrant and we're going to think about the past day or 2, maybe 3 days of inputs of the body. And I'm going to walk you through each one, give examples, and just think about what were the inputs of the body and was it positive or negative? And we're going to jot down just a few things. And again, this is just a snapshot. We don't need to get every single thing we've consumed over the past day or 2. We just want to have that snapshot. We just want to start to develop our awareness. We don't want to become aware of what we are consuming and if it is more positive or negative. And so I'll give examples and we're going to go through each one. But before an important part, maybe saying what is positive and what is negative, let the way you feel determine if it's positive or negative. We know if something is positive or negative. We know if it is good for us. This is developing that discernment because that connection with ourself, that's who we want to get that approval for, from ourself. We don't want somebody else to tell us this is good, this is bad, because think of how many factors there are, especially when it comes to diets and it comes to exercise, how many factors there are. So you, at the depth of you, know if it's positive or negative. And again, there's a spectrum as well. One cookie at the end of the day may not be a negative, but if you're eating a box of cookies, maybe that's a negative. So again, it's on you to decide and to know and to recognize that answer that comes from within you. So let's dive into it. So starting with the inputs of the body, and this is probably the easiest to think about, anything tangible that we are consuming. And this could be any type of food, alcohol, juice, supplements, drugs, anything physical that we are consuming. So just take a moment, think about past day 2 or 3. What are the good things you've consumed? What are the negative things you've consumed? And just thinking about it. This is not to beat yourself up. This is just a snapshot. This is where you are now, developing that awareness. Do you feel it was overall positive, overall negative? All right, and let's slide into the outputs of the body. So this is how we use the body, how we move the body. So exercise is an obvious one, but then also just habitual behaviors. We want to become aware of what we're doing. Do we have any kind of nervous tics? Do we bite our nails or anything like that? Just we want to be aware of how we are using our body. Nature immersion, I'd say, is a very positive thing. How often are we going outside? Are we spending all our times inside? How are we using this body? Communication with others. We are using this body. There is a need for our physicality for these things. And that's what we're determining. Are they positive or negative? And again, just think of the past day or 3 and you determine, again, positive or negative. All right, and the inputs of the mind, this is extremely important and arguably the most important of them all, because what we consume has an effect on our psyche, and our psyche has an effect on our, not only our emotional health, but our physical health. As we experience different thoughts and inputs of the mind, it has an effect. Just like if you see something that makes you angry, you have a physical response. Your body tenses up, your body temperature raises. There's a physical response. If you consume something that makes you happy, you physically smile. There's a lightness that comes about you. So we want to think about the inputs. And this is music, podcasts, books. You see the examples here. What are we consuming and how does it make you feel? Do the podcast you listen to talk about something constructive and uplifting? Do they tell you that the world is doomsday is around the corner? How does it make you feel? And the same with social media and movies. Just jot a few down. We don't need to go in too much detail. Again, just snapshots. And then the same for the outputs of the mind. How are we using this, the intangible aspect of ourself? So the use of our imagination. What are the movies that are playing in our mind? How are we using our thoughts towards others? Are we speaking constructively towards others in our mind and towards ourselves? How are we using our thoughts? Just write a few, give you a moment, and then we'll transition. So then once we have those And again, just want to emphasize snapshot. This is not to beat ourselves up. We are just want to become aware. We want to develop that awareness because awareness gives us the power to make the change. The awareness empowers us to do and be what we want to make those changes. All right. So now we create that alignment where the actions and ideals come together. So we have that snapshot of where we are with this, with the inputs and outputs. And now we're going to kind of cast a vision of where we want to go. So create a blank one, and it's just going to be 4 quadrants. We're not going to break them down into positive and negatives. We're just going to have the 4 quadrants, inputs, outputs of the body and the mind. And now that we have that snapshot and we have that definition of perfect health and the feeling of what we're striving for, we're going to see these 4 quadrants and we're going to fill them in with what we want them to feel like, want them to look like. So if we have this perfect health, what would these look like? And so, for examples of the inputs of the body, maybe you recognize like, oh, I want to start the day with a green smoothie. That can be something positive. So this is going to be all the positives because this is what we want them to look like. This could be things you've done in the past or things that you want to try. And for the outputs of the body, maybe you used to do yoga on the regular and now you want to do that again. So that could be a positive output of the body. Or maybe you want to try taking up dance classes. So you haven't done that, but that's something you consider and you think that'd be a positive output of the body, a positive way to use the body. For the inputs of the mind, maybe you read a good book 5 years ago and you're like, oh, I want to revisit that book. I'm sure I've changed a lot and I'll gain a lot more from that book now. Let me see that, or maybe different books from the same author. Outputs of the mind. Perhaps if you wrote down one of the negatives, like, oh, I actually mentally curse out my coworker every day on the way to work. So maybe you practice forgiveness, or maybe you practice speaking kindly to them in your mind. What is something that you would like to do mentally that you know would put you more in line with that ideal definition of health, with that feeling that you're striving for? All these things that we're writing down will contribute to that feeling that we're after. That's the point of all this. That feeling is the ultimate win. All right. So that actually touches on the visions point of this, the future. We're creating a future vision with this. And so we worked on that vision, and then obviously we worked on the inputs and outputs. And now the final part is the connection. And of course, all these matter, but what the most important one that was kind of touched on is the connection with ourself. Because that's, again, to reemphasize, that is what we want to feel truly connected with. We want to feel that we are living rightly by ourselves. We want to feel that at the depth of our being, that we're doing all right, that we are living rightly, that we want to feel satisfaction with ourselves, within ourselves. So that is the most important form of connection. And arguably, as we connect deeply with ourselves, we will connect with others in a more harmonious way. And in connecting with ourselves, one may say we are even connecting with the divine. But again, that's just an idea. You can play with that if you so choose. And what is the best way to connect with ourselves? Well, I would say, and perhaps stress greatly, that we must learn to meditate. For many reasons, there's a bunch of ideas of what meditation is, but we could just say that meditation is deliberate use and control of our mental energies, how we direct our awareness, our attention in a deliberate manner, because everything flows through our consciousness. And as we gain ability to direct our mental energy, we direct the way we feel because we're focusing on things we can control, and our thoughts, our focus, our attention is something that is in our ultimate control. And as we learn to meditate more, we gain control of that. We gain control of our thoughts, of our nervous system, and our state of being, our health. And I said taking control of our nervous system. So to this point, our ability to relax at will is a superpower. And you will see if you're new to the idea of meditation, the practice of meditation, you will see that you have the conscious ability to slow down your brain waves, to slow your nervous system, to switch into that parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest. We have the conscious ability to do that. And if that sounds far out, it doesn't take much practice to get into the recognition of that. And then that allows us to recognize as well that the mind-body connection is very real. Just as we can slow down our brain waves and get into relaxation, we can then call upon pretty much any emotion that we so choose, even if it's the emotion to the desire to eat healthier foods, the desire to get up and exercise. We have the ability to control our nervous system, to control how we show up, behave, how we live in this life. So that is very powerful. And again, once you start to recognize the reality of the mind-body connection, you pay very much attention to how you use your mind. So generally, when I do this workshop live with people, I say, let's meditate. But you will find some resources. They'll be nearby. You'll see them, and I'll have some meditations available for you to practice. Because once you get a glimpse of meditation and recognizing your ability to relax, it's something that you'll want to do. I'd say a healthy addiction, if you will. Just as once you start exercising, you want to exercise, your body actually calls you to exercise more. The same thing with meditation. You start to call yourself to meditate more because you recognize the benefits of it. So normally it would be right now, but since this is pre-recorded, I'd say just find the resources that, yeah, that you can get a glimpse of it, or find some other resources. There's a lot of options. All right, so I'd say in close, for the foundations of fundamentals of health, develop an awareness of your current inputs and outputs of your body and mind. Recognize that snapshot of where you are. We want to make those unconscious behaviors conscious. We want to put ourselves in that position of power to make the change. And by developing that awareness, that is a powerful and beautiful way of, yeah, putting ourselves in that position of power. Secondly, say craft an ideal to work towards. And we kind of did that with the quadrants of what you want those to look like. And maybe it is that green smoothie in the morning, maybe it is those dance classes, etc. So figuring out what would be the ideal that would allow you to feel that feeling of health, that allow you to tap into the essence of your perfect health. And lastly, deepen that connection with yourself so you can choose what is right for you. It's not someone else telling you to take dance classes. It's you feeling that is best for you. It would allow not only that means of movement for the body, but then also a creative form of expression, perhaps. So recognizing what is right for you. And with that, I would say developing a daily meditation practice. That is going to be one of the best ways to calm the chatter of the mind, to tap into the depth of you, the essence of you, so that you really can feel you and what is right for you. So that is that. And this is the framework of it all. And again, everything of health can be broken down into these components. And if you would like to work with me personally, I've developed a 40-day program that really dives into each of these pillars and gets them aligned and activated. And we discover the right exercises for you and your body. It's not a one-size-fits-all program. We have a conversation and we work together in this and figuring out what works for you, what's worked in the past, what do you want to try, and background personal trainer. So I have an understanding of the body. We get into developing a healthy relationship with food and recognizing that it is food as fuel, and figuring out the right foods for you, and figuring out how to slowly incorporate, or greatly if you want to jump all in, how to incorporate healthier, more life-giving foods into your daily life. And perhaps the most important, deepening that meditation practice. Have experienced decades worth of experience of meditation, and I've been certified as a meditation coach. So helping you figure out what works for you. And just like there's many different exercises for different types of bodies, there are different meditation styles that we can figure out that works for you and your temperament and your way of life. And lastly, I touched on these, but I guess my credentials to see that, just to say, I kind of know what I'm talking about, humbly, is became a certified personal trainer in 2015, though my physical fitness journey started in 2008, and I just became fascinated with understanding health, with figuring out how this body works, and just recognizing like, oh, I can do these things and experience these results. And it was just fascinating. And then plant-based consulting, plant-based nutrition consulting in 2018 to complement the personal training. And I personally became a plant-based eater, predominantly plant-based since 2017. So I'm just sharing this to say I currently live the lifestyle. I understand it. I know how to get the proper amount of nutrients, and I really studied herbalism and all the, again, just the fascination of health was what grasped me, and understanding that food is medicine. These plants are actually medicinal, and it is a beautiful thing to recognize that we have nature's medicine at our fingertips. Became a certified yoga instructor in 2023 because, again, just wanted to understand the system of this body and how the mind-body connection really works, and understanding the practice of yoga helped that. And a regular practice with that began in 2017 when I was first introduced to it by an actually very skilled teacher. She had 20 something years of practice, and that was my first introduction to yoga. So that was a really profound experience. And lastly, as I mentioned, meditation coaching certification and 300 hours meditating. It was beautiful. Though daily practice started in 2015, and I ended up becoming the meditation coach for that because recognizing the benefits and wanting to be a better facilitator for others. And I host not only group meditations, but one-on-one individual meditations, and help people develop their own personal practice, because I truly believe that is the foundation, the roots of health. As we begin to understand and gain control of our mind, we recognize that it trickles out and affects not only our physical health, but the way we interact and show up with the world. So that is that. I hope you got some value in this. May this find you well. And until we speak again, my friends, take care. And now I will figure out how to stop this share. Well, there it is. Cheers. Bye now.